Welcome, I'm Yvonne and here's what happened this week. Taiwan's military has conducted live-fire missile tests in the southern county of Pingtung using the U.S.-purchased HIMARS system. Defense reporter Jaime Ocon was there to see them in action for the first time.
At this secret military base in southern Pingtung, Taiwan's army is making history. For the first time, Taiwan is firing the U.S.-made HIMARS, or High Mobility Artillery Rocket System. It's one of the most precise weapons in the world that fires rockets and missiles on the back of a truck. Soldiers here are learning how to hit targets at sea as part of annual missile tests.
我们今天实施火箭弹的射击训练。那回到驻地之后，我们实施战备任务训练。待战备任务训练都完备之后，我们才会实施成军。
This test has been 5 years in the making, after Taiwan first ordered 11 HIMARS systems in 2020. The first batch of those weapons arrived roughly 6 months ago. But in 2022, Taiwan bought an additional 18. If all goes to plan, Taiwan will receive 29 HIMARS systems. And so the goal now for the military is to figure out where the weapon fits in the overall defensive strategy, taking lessons from the war in Ukraine on how to best utilize this kind of firepower. In Ukraine, soldiers have been using the HIMARS to hit Russian military facilities with precision without being exposed to a counterattack for too long. Eyeing threats from neighboring China, Taiwan could do the same if a war broke out, as some of the missiles in the HIMARS can reach almost 300 kilometers.
Once you fire a big artillery system, you got to get out of there very quickly because the enemy's going to be able to find you and return fire. So the HIMARS is going to be far more survivable in its ability to shoot and scoop. These weapon systems, these HIMARS, could basically fire from a place that would be very hard to find before they fired, knock these things out, and that would complicate Chinese planning.
Late last year, photos emerged of Taiwanese soldiers in the U.S. state of Oklahoma learning how to operate the HIMARS, and it's the same unit that's taking part in these missile tests. As more U.S. weapons continue to arrive, Taiwan's biggest challenge may be ensuring that soldiers on the ground know how to operate these advanced systems.
And that's the key piece, because you can get Taiwan all the great weapons in the world, but at the end of the day, if this thing actually happens, if the commanders on the ground aren't totally sure of how they're supposed to use this weapon, this thing could fall apart pretty quick.
As Taiwan wraps up these historic HIMARS tests, the Army here says it feels confident about its capabilities, as it takes what could be another step towards modernizing the military. Fu Hao-hong and Jaime Ocon in Pingtung County for TaiwanPlus.
Lawmakers are sounding the alarm after Chinese components were found in a Taiwanese military drone. The defense minister says sensitive parts will no longer be sourced from China. But as John Van Trieste reports, it's not the first time Chinese tech has turned up where it shouldn't.
The Albatross 2 drone is supposed to be a work of domestic Taiwanese engineering, but ahead of its mass production, there's a snag. It turns out some of its parts are made in China. China claims Taiwan, and it's Chinese forces these drones are built to repel. Yet inspectors only caught the Chinese parts at the last minute, when the military took delivery of early units. Now, concerned lawmakers are pressing the drone's maker over the potential security risks.
会不会以后无人机飞上去，不管侦测到什么、看到什么，其实资料还没有回传台湾，都已经回传到对岸了呢？
这两型无人机都还没有量产，是在试研制的阶段。然后我们在试研制阶段，这个东西是从国外进口的。那进口以后，我们在进口检验的时候，发现里面的确有它的 SD 卡是中国制的，那我们就要求原厂要能更换。
The defense minister too faced questions. When he pledged tighter controls once the drones go into mass production, lawmakers pressed for specifics.
哪一些是要飞后，就是这一个的标准是不是一致？
我们分成5类。我比如说举个例子，你可分成桌子，这个绝对不需要说会录制嘛。那有一些我想比较大家很清楚，就是具有传输功能的，那我们当然就确定一定是不能够用。
How reassured lawmakers may be is hard to gauge. The issue of Chinese-made equipment in sensitive places is not a new one for Taiwan. Last year, Taiwan People's Party lawmaker Huang Guochang broke the news that army bases were using Chinese devices. An audit found Chinese-made network routers, data readers, and power inverters. Rocket fuel powder and some electrical components in Taiwan-made missiles have also been traced to China in the past. But with China the world's largest exporter, getting the parts Taiwan needs without the risk Chinese parts could bring won't be easy. Eason Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Excluding Taiwan from global health conversations is a loss for all. That's the message from the Foreign and Health Ministries as they prepare to send an entourage to Switzerland ahead of the annual World Health Assembly despite not being given a seat at the table. Reese Ayers reports.
Excluding Taiwan from global health conversations is a loss for all. That's the message from the Foreign and Health Ministries as they prepare to send an entourage to Switzerland ahead of the World Health Assembly, despite not being given a seat at the table. AI-integrated medical treatments and experience developing one of the world's most respected national healthcare systems. That's what Taiwan is offering as it prepares to campaign from the sidelines of the annual World Health Assembly, the decision-making body of the World Health Organization, and convince the world that its tech and medical expertise are not to be ignored.
我们也预计于日内瓦召开国际记者会，经由世界媒体记者呼吁更多国家以及所有重视全球卫生安全的国际医卫团体一起来支持台湾以观察员的身份出席 WHA， 并完整的参与 WHO 所有的会议、活动与机制。
Taiwan hasn't held back its criticism of the WHO, calling its decision to place politics above health a betrayal and miscarriage of its core duty, one the foreign minister was keen to repeat.
健康无国界哈，不能够就是说漏掉任何一个人或国家。
It's the 9th year in a row that Taiwan has been denied access, and even before then it was only granted observer status. China, which claims Taiwan as its own, continues to block Taiwan's participation.
中国台湾地区在未经中央政府同意的前提下，没有任何根据、理由或权利参加世卫大会。
Taiwan's medical diplomacy campaign is an annual affair, but calls for it to join international bodies like the United Nations and WHO are growing, particularly since the COVID-19 pandemic, when Taiwan demonstrated its medical prowess tackling the virus. Just weeks ago, the US House of Representatives passed a bill that pledged American support for Taiwan's participation in such organizations. More than just an opportunity to flex its medical and technological might, the meetings on the sidelines of the upcoming World Health Assembly will give Taiwan a chance to garner more support for its cause, to be allowed in the room where the conversations are happening about the future of health for all. Klein Wang and Reese Ayers for TaiwanPlus.
Saturday marks the end of nuclear power in Taiwan. Once one of the most nuclear-reliant economies in the world, the country is now switching off its final reactor. Louise Watt reports.
Every day, Chen Long-chung delivers lunch from his restaurant to the nuclear power plant across the road. The father of two has lived and worked here in Hengchun town in Taiwan's south for more than half his life. But these are some of the final deliveries before the plant is switched off. And with that, the country's nuclear power. Chen thinks that's a bad decision.
那个煤发电应该是没有比那个核能发电还要来得好。我觉得还是核能发电需要继续延役，应该是对百姓比较好，还有对工业也 OK 啦。因为你如果核能没有发电的话，应该电价会涨。
Despite growing unease among some about turning off nuclear power, Taiwan's ruling party is pressing ahead with its long-time goal of a nuclear-free homeland. It's been increasing wind and solar sources and reducing coal-fired power in favour of natural gas. Once seen as a cheap and stable way of helping Taiwan industrialise, nuclear power fell out of public favour because of safety fears, particularly after the 2011 Fukushima disaster in Japan, and the problem of where to store nuclear waste. Since 2017, the operating licences of all Taiwan's reactors have expired. Taiwan's third nuclear power plant opened here on the southern coast in the mid-1980s, when nuclear power accounted for around 50% of the country's electricity. That's now down to 3%, all produced here, the last of Taiwan's 6 reactors to shut down. Taiwan already imports virtually all its energy. That's led to fears about the country's energy supply in the event of a blockade by China, which claims sovereignty over Taiwan.
如果发生了什么问题，也只有2个礼拜的储存的时间，风力更不用说了，就是都不是属于稳定的电源。现在最稳定的电源就是核三嘛。
Businesses already worry about a power crunch after several mass blackouts. In a last-ditch effort to keep nuclear power, Taiwan's opposition-controlled legislature amended the law, allowing plant operators to apply to run for another 20 years. That's come too late to keep this reactor running, and the government says it would take at least a year and a half to restart it. But President Lai Ching-de's Democratic Progressive Party is not ruling out bringing nuclear back sometime in the future.
任何的政策变更都必须满足核安、核废、社会共识3个重要的前提，才有可能进行。
Reaching public and political consensus will be no easy task. At least for now, Taiwan has to adapt to a future with no nuclear power and the uncertainty that brings. Devon Tsai and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
China is targeting Taiwan's young people through culture and sponsored trips in what national security officials are calling hybrid infiltration.
加大对我青年基层统战，锁定邀我青年参访红色景点，透过各类文化参访，促其认同文化一中。
Taiwan's National Security Bureau briefed legislators on 5 current threats China poses to Taiwan. While the report contained China's usual pressure tactics like military coercion and international suppression, it also spoke about emerging threats. Those include societal and cyber infiltration. Representatives from a temple in China are being investigated over suspicions they're in Taiwan to promote unification under the guise of a religious exchange. Reese Ayers has more.
An innocent religious exchange or a matter of national security? It's a distinction Taiwan must make amid another suspected case of Chinese infiltration. Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council has received reports that a group representing the Fumei Temple from China's Fujian province have met local officials here in Taiwan. But why is that an issue? Well, Taiwan has strict and clear regulations on groups from China who intend on doing so-called professional exchanges in Taiwan. Apparently, there's no record of this group applying for a permit that would allow them to have the kinds of meetings they're accused of having. The fear from officials is that this group is here to conduct united front work, essentially a campaign by the Chinese Communist Party to influence and recruit people outside of China to promote Beijing's agenda. Taiwan has repeatedly expressed concerns about increasing attempts of this nature. The Mainland Affairs Council have said that for several years now, the CCP has been using religious exchanges as a way to promote its policy of unifying Taiwan with China. These ongoing attempts have led lawmakers from the ruling Democratic Progressive Party to put forward several proposed changes to national security laws, amendments that would increase penalties and broaden the scope of those laws to include punishments for not only those who actively manage United Front campaigns, but also intermediaries who help spread information or source funding for them. The Interior Ministry also recently set up a website where groups from Taiwan hoping to engage in cross-strait religious exchanges are asked to log in and make public the intention of their visit. Yet another mechanism Taiwan is using to potentially deter or catch nefarious exchanges happening on either side of the strait. Scott Huang, Alex Chen and Reese Ayers for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching Here's What Happened. Visit the TaiwanPlus website or our social media for more of our stories. Finally, check out this exhibition in Rome featuring 200 handcrafted pieces by the Italian fashion duo Dolce & Gabbana. I'm Yvonne Yang. Take care, and I'll see you next time.